Good morning, everyone. I know that this is one of the moments and the events that we don't like to experience. We like to experience weddings, baby showers, baptisms, but these ones we don't like to experience. But I'm hopeful because I heard her sister say that she doesn't like mournful attire to be worn, which gives me hope that she is hopeful for the resurrection morning. And so I'd like to thank all of you and welcome you all from far and near to join the Mundende family as they bid goodbye to their beloved sister, mother, wife, auntie, and also a precious soul of this church. I'd like to humbly invite you to be on your feet with me as we pray. Our Father in heaven, King of kings and Lord of lords, Creator of all mankind, owner and sustainer of all beings, we come this morning to present our souls before you for who you are, that your word spoken will always accomplish the purpose for which it was spoken. This is what you said the day that man decided against your will. But we thank you for Jesus who intervened and who reconciled us to yourself and give us hope that in times like this, we have an anchor, we have a hope, we have your word that brings glory and adorations and hope. We thank you for our sister and mother and auntie, for the life you give her to live on this world full of troubles and heartache and pain until this day that you have laid her to rest. As we join here today to worship and also to think about our own selves, where we are with you, we pray that our worship, our memories, our sorrow, and everything, the emotions that we go through, will always focus on Jesus and what he did for us. So, Father, be with us, be with the family, be with all friends and beloved ones as we are joined here. And let your will prevail as always. We pray humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be seated, please.
Good morning. Thanks, everyone, for being here and sharing this moment with us and our family. If you would please join us in song and help and celebrate my mother's memory. She loved music, and these are some of her favorite songs. So we'd like to share them with you today. Opening hymn today will be How Far From Home, number 439.
Spake the long dark night
next hymn will be number 600, Hold Fast Till I Come. Next selection will be number 375, Work for the Night is Coming.
Work while the dew is falling.
Our final selection is number 428 in the Sweet By and By. Throughout this whole process, it's been really difficult, but two things have really kept our family together. It's the fact that my mom is no longer suffering and is no longer in pain, and that we hope to see her again one day in the Sweet By and By.
She thought it was crazy. I got that quote directly from my friend Sir Chongo. When I asked, I said, what did Grace think about all the marathons and all the running? Chongo, you told me she thought it was crazy. There we go. Crazy. It's my understanding, Chongo, out of running marathons out of 48 out of 50 states, and she still thought it was. I went through, as I listened to the family, as the family talked about different experiences and what they went through, I figured out something pretty quickly. Because I soon found it was totally all in Grace's hands that the running started. Because with the story that I was given, Chongo was a 17-year-old young man who noticed a 16-year-old young woman. And noticing her, one of the statements that he said is, he said, I pursued her all her life. all her life. I would give her credit for the running career if he started pursuing her when he was 16 years old. And it had to be quite a challenge for Chongo, because it's my understanding in talking to the family that she was an athlete, that she was a track star, she was a high jumper. So I would think that she set the bar pretty high for you that you followed for the rest of your life. As I looked through pictures of the family and I saw the maturing Grace through the years, one by one, in picture after picture after picture, I saw each one of you children in each picture, and we could pick them out one by one, except for maybe little Chongo. So we looked at that. I tried really hard, and she looks exactly like her father through the years and went through that process. But each one of her children, here's one of the things that I share in my job, in my career. I coordinate the Employee Assistance Program and the Chaplaincy Service for the Department of Human Services. And in my work, many times I meet employees, and I ask if I can send a note to their parents during a tough time, maybe a time of health crisis, a time of loss. I say, may I send a letter to your parents? And in that note or in that card, I write, while I have never met your child, I feel like I have never met you. I feel like I have met you through your child because of the blessing that they have brought to my life. One by one by one. I'm going to talk a little bit about the blessing that the children bring back in our lives. The other thing, when someone gives me an unexpected kindness or someone is very gracious with me, I ask them this question, do you talk to your mother? And they say yes. I said, will you call your mother today? And they say yes. And I said, here's what I will ask. From one mother to another, would you please call your mother and tell her that she did a good job? She did a good job. It's amazing that people will call back and say, my mother was so excited to get that call. I'm going to talk about you children just for a second. Look at this. I'm talking about the joy that you brought to her. I love a statement. I'm going to read this. It's in Proverbs. And in Proverbs, it simply says, Proverbs 23, 24, and 25, the father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. I'm going to make the suggestion that Grace rejoiced through the years because of her children and her relationship and her marriage. When you're looking at the children, I look at the current area where we are. The first child I will talk about is a counselor in education, a school psychologist, as her father in education. I look at the professionals. I look at Malinga and I look at Lumbe. Nurses, quality in everything you do. I look at our artist and our musician, Kongwa. And I look at military special forces and I see Wenya there and what joy this must have brought to her heart as she looked at the accomplishments of her children. This weekend, our son was here visiting, and one comment that Ty kept saying over and over during the weekend, he said, they're all stars. They're all stars. He said, every one of these children, they're all stars. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. What joy you have brought to the heart of your children. I'm going to quickly share 3 lessons that I have learned from Grace, my 3 Grace lessons. Here's the first one. Know your place and stand by the side of those you love. From time to time, not often enough in my book, but from time to time, Chongo will give us a message in church. And I always appreciate the message and the sharing that you have. I've noticed that every single time that Chongo shared a message in church, at the end, you'd walk out and you would greet the worshipers as they came, and Grace would always come and stand by your side. Quietly stand. First lesson from Grace, stand by those you love. My second lesson that I have learned from Grace is the gift of acceptance. I collect quotes on acceptance, and I have several that are here. And one of the quotes from acceptance says, I don't have to think about it, it just is. I was really touched by the story that Mitch said when she received the diagnosis. And her comment is, this is it. I guess it just is. There is a peace in acceptance. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems. I do what is in front of me to the best of my ability. Speaking from a quote, I do what is in front of me to the best of my ability, and however it turns out is God's will for me. God's will for me. There is peace and acceptance. And the third lesson I learned from Grace is the gift of grieving. In my work, many times employees talk to me about grieving processes, and there's a whole myriad of statements about grieving. One of the statements that we have is, who would know that emotional pain would hurt so much physically? Our subconscious mind does not differentiate between physical pain and emotional pain. It hits our body. One of the gifts that we have been created, that we have been given by our Creator, is the gift of tears. And one of the things that I found through tears, that there is a chemical that is released in our tears that is an automatic soothant. And I think about how wise our Creator was to create us in such a way that our bodies have a healing mechanism for that. Was talking to an employee about grieving, and she said, Laree, we don't get to choose what we grieve, and we don't get to choose when we grieve. Grieving is a part of life that we experience. But I will share with you my grieving story. After a death in our family, my husband, my mother-in-law, it was her husband, my husband, my mother-in-law, and Bob, the three of us went out for a car ride. We did not lock our house at that time. This was over 20 years ago. We were going for a car ride, and as we took our time going through the country, when we came back, we noticed that there was a car we did not recognize parked right in front of our house. And so we got out and we looked in the car, and no one was in the car. We walked around the property. Nobody was around the property. And we opened the door and walked into the living room, and there was an individual seated on the floor of our living room, down on their knees, seated back on their heels, very quietly waiting. No words were said at that point in time, and it was our friend Grace. And in front of Grace was a little bowl. Now, I recognized the bowl because it came from my own kitchen. So I recognized that bowl, and in front of Grace, there on the floor in front of her, was a little bowl, and inside there was a quarter, and there was a nickel, and a dime, and a penny. And Grace rose and she turned to us and she said, I came to your home to grieve with you. One of the things that I share with individuals is never underestimate the power of your presence. There were no magical words that were said. There was no magic in anything that took place except that she gave us the gift of her presence. Never underestimate the gift of your presence. It was a joy to me because over 20 years later, more than 20 years later, I had the opportunity to follow in her footsteps and go to their home and share a presence. And it was about 3 weeks, 2 weeks before. And I remember she was lying there on the couch and you were stroking her face, Malinka, and talking with her. And I said, Grace, here's something that meant so much to me. And I told her the story and what she gave. And she looked at me and she smiled a little bit, and she knew. She knew the gift that she had and what she shared. For each of you, children and Father, I have a coin for you. And each time you see this coin, it can be symbolic of the gift that your mother gave to us in the gift of your presence. I have one last message. From mother to mother. You did a good job.
The year was 1991. We had known each other at Michigan State University, where Dr. Chongo Mundende met us. That was probably in the early 80s. But in 1991, I had been instructed from Langston University that I would come to teach there after 1 year. And so I continued teaching. I was teaching at Michigan State on a part-time basis. While doing that, I received a phone call after 3 months. The phone call said, and I see the vice president of Langston University here, probably is the one who called me. He said, that's after 3 months, instead of after 1 year. He said, you are expected to be in class on Monday. That was on Friday. That was on Friday. And they are saying that on Monday I should be in class. And to make a long story short, I was in class on Tuesday. And of course, Dr. Mundende had come to Langston a year earlier. And I had a problem of where am I going to stay? Since I never even prepared, because I was told in only 3 days I should be in class. So I talked to Dr. Mundende, who had been here at Langston University for a year. And I said, Doc, I don't know where to go and stay. At that time, he had only 3 kids. Now he has 5. And he said, let me talk to my wife, Grace. And he talked to her, and you know what? He said, you can stay for us for a month. And I said, this is a blessing. But I was not alone. I was with another gentleman called Dr. Aqua. So both I and Dr. Aqua stayed with Dr. Mundende and his wife Grace and the 3 children in a small house in Guthrie. Dr. Mundende told me, my wife has said, yes, you can come and stay with us. And if you look at it, that really meant a lot to us. And from that time to the present, we and the Mundendes are a very close family. Who was Grace Mundende? You know the tree by the nature of its fruits. The tree grows on a fertile ground. Its roots penetrate the earth in all directions and depths, and in search of nutrients. The nutrients enable it to develop, and they have massive branches, which are attached with green leaves, white, blue, orange, and yellow flowers. And above all, sweet and delicious fruits whose seeds are chewable to produce a healing effect. Insects, birds, other animals, including people and the family members, enjoy a calming shade under the tree. Because its fruits are sweet, nutritious, and life-sustaining, its legacy will continue to sustain life on earth. My friends, you have all seen the 5 children the fruits Grace raised. Successful in their various endeavors, they've made a contribution to our society, to our churches, to our families, and to ourselves. Why are we grieving? Grace left us in a better shape than we were. She left us in a better shape than we were. In other words, because she was here, and because she did what she was supposed to do, all of us are better off. She wasn't going to live forever, but she left us better than we were. This woman of faith was a teacher in Zambia. I learned that from Dr. Mundende. And a mother who built a solid foundation for her family in America with the support of a nice, loving, athletic, and sensitive professor who is her surviving husband. They were able to raise a large family and a successful family. You see, it is one thing to be large, it is another thing to be successful. And that shows who she was. Those of us who are parents or grandparents who have raised families, you know the challenges of raising a family. You can see her fruits. Like many of us here today, Grace Mundende's influence is sometimes unspeakable. She loved her children. She nursed them with her milk. She cooked for the kids in order to get sustenance. She gave them instructions about discipline, about religion, about faith. That's probably why they are in the church. About right and wrong. About God. Her strong Christian foundation was originally rooted in Thomistic and Augustinian Catholicism, from which Western Christianity and the Protestant Reformation have sprung. But the Adventist Church is a brand of Protestantism. In other words, she learned that we use faith, reason, knowledge to know and rationalize the divinity available in the city of God and the city of man. She learned about the divinity, about godliness, and about God himself from these Catholic roots, which she had in Zambia before she became an Adventist. Grace Mundende's life was like a productive garden. Have you ever imagined of a garden? Particularly a garden you have around your house. What is there? Beautiful flowers, beautiful fruits, beautiful plants. A garden, maybe tomatoes, carrots, onions, you name it. That's who she was. She was like a garden. Her kitchen was the center of the family. She showed her love through her actions rather than words. She taught the family about the importance of thrift. In other words, about the importance of using the money we have in a more careful way rather than in an extravagant way. She was a vibrant soul, one who literally lit up the room whenever she entered. She taught her children about good manners, about respect, about sound morals. In a good and bad times, Mother Grace was supported and strengthened and comforted all the children in the family. This was a matriarch, a great matriarch. In brief, we have lost our beloved great matriarch, but she has left us a legacy of being a tree, of being a garden, of being a faithful follower of Christ and now she has gone to the city of God. Her spirit has gone to the city of God, but her body has gone down to the soil from whence it came when God created humanity. May her life inspire all of us.
Hi, I'm Amanda Stoltz with Friendship International that Grace, she spent about 10 years with us at Friendship International. And I spoke this last week to Malinga. I haven't seen her face, but there she is. She had asked me to share about Friendship International and Grace there during that time. Friendship International is a women's ministry where we teach English and craft classes to internationals who come that want to meet ladies. And it started, we're 43 years ago. We're starting our 43rd year this coming fall. It was started by a lady named Kay Kane and 4 or 5 other ladies from area churches, along with Dr. Paddock, who was the director of international students at UCO or Central State at the time. They saw a need there were so many international ladies that were here with their children in their apartments while their husbands were at school. They didn't speak English and they did not have a lot of friends. So this was a great way to minister to them, to develop relationships with them and to share the love of Christ with them. We at Friendship International this year that just passed, we finished in May, we have about 15 classes, and we also have childcare pre-K to down to bed babies, small little babies. And we have a lady that teaches these kids stories from the Bible through song and through the Word of God. And several of these ladies come to Friendship and bring their kids who would never ever walk into a church, any other way. And so we meet together through the year during Edmond School's calendar. And some of our classes we have 6 levels of English, citizenship, Bible, sewing, quilting, needlework, cooking, crafts, and we have a choir. Grace enrolled November the 5th, 2009. And throughout the year, she has taken part in English classes, cooking classes, which maybe you're not surprised because she loves cooking, sewing and quilting. As I was looking through pictures of Friendship this last week at pictures of Grace, I found some great pictures, I thought, of her with huge smiles on her face. And she was usually holding up a quilt or a quilt square, or where she was with her cooking class. I was talking to her cooking teacher, Denise Murdoch, and she was telling me that oftentimes throughout the year, the ladies like to bring food from their country and share it. And of course, Grace loved to jump in and share food from her country. We begin each Thursday, I don't know why I said Friday, each Thursday with snacks and prayer requests before they go to class. And quite often, Grace would have specific prayer requests for her children by name and specific situations you were involved in, whether it's a test at school or whatever it was. She was very specific about it. So her love for her children was so obvious at Friendship when she would share prayer requests and ask us to pray specifically for you all. Every week, different Sunday school classes that help support Friendship International bring snacks for the ladies to have before they go to class. And oftentimes, Grace would come early and jump right in there and help the ladies set up their snacks. We probably have 100 to 110 international ladies in 30-something countries every week come throughout the year. And throughout the years that Friendship has been ministering to these ladies, over 100 different countries have been represented at Friendship. And I'm always amazed when I come to Friendship that Almighty God, the creator of the heavens and the earth and all that they hold, created so many nations and countries and cultures for him to enjoy and for us to enjoy. Right here in Edmond, Oklahoma, the Lord brought a lady from faraway Zambia to Friendship International so that I and all the ladies there would have the opportunity and the privilege to meet Grace. You know, when I saw those pictures of her and that big smile, it was just huge. And I thought, you know, her smile is as big as she is tall. I felt like I'm pretty tall. I always felt like I looked up to Grace. But Revelations 15:4 says, who will not fear, O Lord, and glorify your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship you, for your righteous acts have been revealed. One of these days, those of us who have put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ and made him Lord of our life will see Grace again. We will be standing there together, worshiping the one who has made people from all the cultures of the world one family in Christ, and who alone is worthy to be praised. So I am one that is blessed by having known Grace, and I never was her teacher, but I was there every week and saw her show up and be a part of Friendship and see parts of her culture through her. And I'm just so thankful for God that allowed that.
I first knew Sister Grace when she came with 3 children from Zambia. That was Chongo, Mulenga, and Mwenya. And they were friends to my children. Chongo and Abigail were age mates, and Mwenya and Josiah. I think Mulenga kind of got in between. However, I've learned a lot of things from this dear lady. First of all, in the African culture, you have a name, And after you get a child, your name kind of vanishes, and you are called by your first child's name. And so when she came from Zambia, I saw big balloons and this written, "Welcome home, Banachongo." That means the mother of Chongo, the daughter. And then years came by. Chongo grew. She finished college. She got married. She had a baby girl. And so the name Banachongo vanished. Then it came to Banakuru Belta. That's the African thing. So from there on, that's what we were calling her, Banakuru Belta, Banakuru Belta. I've learned a lot of things from this dear mother, in that she chose to stay home to take care of her family. And she could tell the children that you study, I can do some of these household duties. And you can see the fruit of that. I loved her Christian values. She loved to study her Bible. And sometimes she took some classes. She could take like the book of John and study the whole book of John. And then she came to realize later she could call her children and tell her what she has studied. One of it was she was telling them that I've studied about the laws of God, the laws of civil laws, this kind of laws, and you say, man, she might even need to write a book about all these things. She also loved to cook. In her house, you could see crock pots. And you wonder, why do you have all these crock pots? Each one was for a specific kind of cooking. You know, sometimes there are times when we could come from somewhere, me and my wife probably, and we say, actually, it is getting late. By the time we get home to cook and eat, let's see who has food ready. That's the African way of doing things. So we could go to, she could say, let's go to Mundende's home. So we could drive up there, and then he said, at that time she was Mama Chongo, all of Mama Chongo. Do you have something that we can eat? Yes, I got some food. Sit down. There was always food. And when she cooks, she cooks. It's not a hamburger. She cooks. Well, you know, my wife is not here at this time. She has gone to see our grandchild. So this is the time I could be going there and say, oh, Banakuru Belta, what do you have in store? Sit down and wait. But we can see her life to us that she was a blessing to many and a blessing to us. Her legacy continues. One thing I never heard Sister Grace doing is complain. I never heard her complain on anything. Maybe I have some deaf ears, but I never heard her complain of anything. All she had was beautiful smile. That's what I saw. I can tell and I talk But I do one song. I do know one song which says we need to part no more. When Christ comes, we will part no more. A few verses that I will sum up my knowledge of Banakuru Belta is Proverbs 14, verse 1. And she quite, to me, is a living testimony of this verse. It says, every wise woman builds her house. Every wise woman builds her house. She jealously builded her home. Another one is Proverbs 19, verse 14, which says, a man can inherit a house, property, money from his parents, but only God can give a wise woman. Last but not the least, Proverbs 31, verse 10. It asks a question, but I'm not going to look for the question. I'm going to say what it is. A wise woman, her price is above rubies. You see how beautiful the rubies are. May the Lord help us as we look at the life of Banakuru Belta to see how many she has benefited, to see how much she could visit people to make their life better than they were. And my prayer is that we all can leave this place enriched and equipped for service.
I wrote something so that I don't wander around so much. As most of you know, I'm not Alfred Kangob Warrior. Mr. Warrior is my brother-in-law who lives in the United Kingdom. He's not with us today because this past Saturday, instead of going to the airport to catch a plane to be with us today, he was rushed to an emergency room because of chest pains. He was immediately admitted, tests done, and eventually they found that he had a lot of clots in his lungs. So please keep him in prayer. I am Chongo, the husband of Grace. And talking about prayer, our family in the United States and abroad, and I'm sure they are on live stream right now as I'm speaking, are grateful and thankful to you and your families for the love it has enjoyed and continues to enjoy. It would be foolish to name names because I will miss somebody. But just know that we are eternally grateful and thankful for the countless hours you have spent on feeding us, both physically, emotionally, and socially, spiritually, during this journey. Thank you for your texts, your emails, your cards, your flowers, your prayers, your money, your food, your visits, your phone calls, your tears, and above else, your love. You have made the difficult journey bearable. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This is a very difficult moment for me. How I wish my brother-in-law or somebody from Zambia was here to stand before you. But I guess you are now stuck with me. Just bear with me for a few moments. I would like to begin by reading a note from her younger sister, who just wrote, my sister, Grace Belita Mundende. I am blessed to call you sister. I also call you friend. You love me unconditionally and stood through thick and thin, honest, loving person I came to know. My mentor. You shared my joys and my sorrows, my laughter and my tears. You have been my inspiration as we grew up through the years. When we were together, we laughed together. When growing up, you stood by me through good times and stormy weather. There's something God has given us that's more than family. He placed a love for you, my sister, deep down in my heart. I love you so much. Rest in peace, my lovely sister. 40 years ago, I said I do to Grace. For those 40 years, Grace was everything to me. She was as precious and sweet as she was gracious. She was as pretty, smart, kind-hearted, compassionate, loving, witty, and tender-hearted. I really strongly believe that she loved everyone and had no malice in her heart. Yes, she could express her opinion very strongly, but at the end of the day, everyone was precious in God's sight. She had many great qualities, but let me just quickly highlight 3 of them. First, Grace was a teacher. No, she may not have taught in any classroom here in the United States, but she used every moment to let everyone know something. She would share information whether you wanted to hear it or not. Such information was as how to make a dish, how to construct proper English sentences, how there are 3 types of foods one must have to live a healthy life: bodybuilding foods, energy foods, and lubricating foods. So you have to have protein, carbohydrates, fats, lipids. And no subject was off topic. But once she started teaching, you were expected to sit down and listen. And she insisted to me over the years that I needed to eat 3 meals a day, interspaced by an afternoon snack and an evening snack. Before she gave up on me, she would call every 1 o'clock to inquire if I had my lunch break yet, because she wouldn't stand her husband to go hungry as he worked. You know, 1 p.m. in Zambia, that's when we have our lunch break. And I could tell her, my darling, I am going to class. Okay, so when did you have your lunch? Second, Grace was kind-hearted. Really, she was a lovely wife, mother, sister, aunt, grandmother, and friend. She put others' needs before hers and consequently touched many lives, particularly mine. As an elementary school teacher, she impacted many lives. She was an amazing mother to our 5 children and now 2 great-grandchildren. For me personally, she put her career on hold that I could do my postgraduate studies. To me, the acronym PhD means pushing husband through. When children came along, she did the same thing. And after they graduated, she said, I've now retired. Yes, my wife was happy when others were happy, but she was happier when she was working. And one of her favorite hymns that we sang was "Wake, for the night is coming." Concern for others went beyond the immediate family. As you've heard, she was an excellent cook and always experimented with the dishes, and she did that to me. Oftentimes, she could try something from Mother Stewart or something she had seen on Chopped. Unfortunately, her husband was is a simple husband who just wanted the nsima from Zambia. In retrospect, I should have supported her in her pursuit because I think she could have written a very good book on cooking. Now she's gone, and the knowledge with her. She was good at sewing and knitting, as you have heard. For a long time, she knitted hats for the newborn babes for Mercy Hospital until she could not knit anymore. In fact, I think I saw one unfinished project right now in her house. Thirdly, she was very unpredictable. One moment, we could be having an intense moment of fellowship. For some of you who don't know, we call this heated wife and husband discussion. But the next moment, she would act as if nothing had happened. And she was genuinely out of it. No, she has said her mind and it's done. One time she would tell you she will accompany you to a marathon, and you are excited you're going to go with your wife. And then at the last moment she says, I'm not going. Sometimes she will tell you, I'm not going. And when you begin to pack, she's the first one in the car. She was precious. In our 40 years of marriage, I never heard my wife complain, not once. As some of you know, she could talk. But really, she was a woman of few words. Until you cross the line concerning bodybuilding foods, energy foods, and lubricants. It was, for me, interesting to see her study the Bible, and when you arrived home, she had been studying and ready for you. Not for arguments, but just to tell you what she read, because what she read, she was going to tell you. And actually, she would call the children, all of them. This is what I read today. It is important that you also read it together. Now, can you read it back to me? Really, Grace was the best wife a man could have. She was the best one could ask God for. She was beautiful in life, and I saw her yesterday. She was even more beautiful and precious in death. She lighted and expanded my world. My life has been enriched because we met and got married. As I looked at her yesterday, my heart skipped a bit because she was still so pretty. Yes, death has stolen her from us, but I hope to see her in the morning. And thanks be to God, because without him, we would never have met, actually born and married, have children, grandchildren, and friends like you. I'll miss you, I'll miss her, and do not know what I will do without her for sure. But one thing I know, one who holds tomorrow will sustain me and our children. So please keep us in your prayers. Again, thank you for coming and everything you have done. And for those who are on the live stream, thank you for being there and for being with us today. May the good Lord keep and bless you.
I'm not sure I'll be able to make it because I have a cold, but I just wanted to, we wanted to share with you guys the journey for the past about 3 months. I know some of you were probably surprised and shocked about that she was even sick, but I think some of you were even shocked that she had passed so quickly. So about March 12th, we got a call, or I think it was a group text from Dad saying that Mom had been admitted to the hospital. She had gone in complaining of abdominal pain, and they had done some tests. And long story short, what we were facing is hepatocellular carcinoma, which is liver cancer, which was in 100% of her liver, which meant that it was non-operable. She couldn't do chemo, and that she wasn't qualified for a liver transplant. The only options we had before us were a targeted therapy, which is a medication pill form that you take to target the cancer cells, to shrink the cancer cells. But it's different than chemotherapy because it only attacks the cancer and not all the other good cells. So we were hopeful that she wouldn't be super sick with it. And the other option was immunotherapy, which kind of just boosts up the immune system and gives us a little bit longer with her. All these options were not to cure her, they were just to prolong her life and manage her symptoms. Well, we went for a second opinion, and we ended up with the same diagnosis and prognosis. The prognosis was 3 months to 3 years, and we were obviously hoping for a lot longer. But we went forth with the first oncologist that she had in the hospital, and we started the targeted therapy. It took us about 2 weeks for insurance and everything to get settled. And she was doing pretty much everything for herself. Us kids kind of rallied. Lombe and Mitch came up right away. I think I came up the next day. Chongo and Don made plans to drive up the following week when we found out about this. And thankfully, Muenya was getting ready to deploy, and it so happened that he had a week off right before he deployed, and this is when this happened. So as a family, we were able to be together. So that was a blessing. So she started her targeted therapy, and we were, as kids, just cooking for her and doing all the other extra things and just allowing her to rest. And after about 4 days, she drastically declined, and we were scared that this was happening quicker than we thought. So we told the doctor, and the doctor took her off the medicine, and we were happy to see that she started to get better and stronger again, because she went from doing mostly everything for herself to we were doing everything for her. So that was quite scary. So she got off the medicine, and she started getting stronger, and we had a lot of decisions to make, whether we would try. By we, as a family, were discussing this, but also having her input. We were discussing whether she wanted to do immunotherapy. And we had a family meeting, and the kids were concerned about her quality of life declining again because she just started to get better. And Dad was the one that really wanted her to keep trying. And as kids, we're like, well, we want Mom here as well, but we just want quality of life for her. And Mom, at that moment, was saying she didn't want any more. She didn't want to do anything. I think she just was so surprised, as we all were, and she felt so bad that she didn't want to try anything. And then she started getting better. We went back to the doctor again, and prior to that, we were talking to, like a 5-hour conversation with hospice. They came into our home and visited with us, and we decided that we would my dad wanted us to go to the last appointment. And we decided we'll just go and get some, kind of figure out where her labs were and get her hydrated because she was struggling with eating and drinking. She'd lost a lot of weight before we started hospice. And like my dad said, our mother was very unpredictable. We would go often to the doctor's office and find out new things. Would find out, that, because she didn't complain, but when they would ask her questions, we'd find out that she'd had pain or she was nauseated or she'd been dizzy, but she never communicated that with us. So we go to our last oncologist appointment thinking we're going to, say thank you and for, helping us through this journey. And my mom surprised us again, and she said she wanted to try immunotherapy again. And we had that discussion again in the office about, as kids, I think it was Chungo and I were there with Mom. And Dad was saying, we want you to try immunotherapy. And Chungo and I were like, no, Dad, you want her to try that. And the doctor had to stop us and say, it's okay for your dad to say what he wants for her as well. And we gave my dad a hard time. But I talked to one of my best friend, Lauren's stepmom, who recently lost her husband to cancer. And she told me that my dad was being her strength through this. When she had no hope, he was being her hope. That he was being faithful. And that if everybody else around her gave up, that she would give up. And we all know how important it is when you're facing a challenge to be mentally strong. And he was being her strength. And that was just such a beautiful perspective that I got from my friend Lauren, Jewel, who recently lost her husband to cancer. Anyway, so Mom decided on her own, she surprised us that she wanted to try immunotherapy. And she'd been on a great trajectory. She was getting stronger and stronger. We even told Muenya, Mom's doing great. She's even getting up and getting food for herself, which she hadn't been doing. So we were very hopeful. And then this immunotherapy, base case scenario, has very few side effects. So we were hoping for the best. But we were told that it can affect your colon, your skin, your liver, and your kidneys. So that was worst case scenario. So she had immunotherapy, and then about 9 days, and that's IV infusion for about 2 hours. We cut out that time and IV therapy, and it's every 3 weeks. So 9 days in, I came home. I worked 3 12-hour shifts and came home for 4 days. And I came home. I was looking forward to coming home again because she was doing so well. I came home on Saturday and she didn't look well. Her legs were swollen. She was having a tough time walking. You could tell she was in pain, but every time I'd ask her if she was in pain, she said she wasn't. And anyway, got on the family text and just trying to figure out what she'd been like before, that day before, because Dad left that Friday morning and everything was fine. And then Saturday, everything was different. Anyway, she was getting progressively worse. Called the doctor, try to figure out what we can do to help her. And then Kangwa came home on Thursday. So that would be May 30th. He came home before he went to work, and Mom was laying in bed and she had been sweating. Her pillow was soaked, and Kangwa just sent a text. He left saying, Mom, came to see Mom, pillow was soaked. Dad was in the yard doing something, and And we were texting because they like to keep a temperature like 79 degrees in the house. So I always give him a hard time, like, Dad, was the AC off or was it on? He's like, no, it's been on. And she'd been laying in bed, and usually she would get up and walk to the living room and watch her favorite show, Chopped, all day. And he said, no, the air conditioner's been on. And, she's been really tired and hadn't been eating. So Lombe said, let's take her to the hospital. So we did. And I said, Dad, check her blood pressure before you go. Because every time when we check it at home, it would be fine. We go to the doctors and it would be low. So I was like, you check it before we go this time so we can compare. So we went, and Dad, before he took her, he checked it and it was in the 60s, which is very low, the first number. Checked it again because didn't believe it, and it was still in the 60s. Long story short, her blood pressure had to be supported until the moment right before she passed. And anyway, so took her. They diagnosed her with sepsis, with septic shock. Her kidneys were injured. And Dad sent that text to us and all us kids. Again, I came right after work. I got off a little bit early. Mitch and Lombe started driving up. Chongo and Dawn. Chongo was going to come a few weeks later to spend time with Mom. She'd been up a couple of times, and she canceled that ticket and booked the flight the night before. Congo, of course, is home. Excuse me. And we were contemplating what to do about Muenya because we'd been seeing Mom through this, and it was an emotional roller coaster. But we try to shield him from that because he's deployed right now, and we just want him to focus. And but we decided that this was something we needed to tell him about, and so we let him know as well. But I don't think he knew the gravity of what was happening. So I got there Friday night at midnight. Dad was sleeping and talked to the nurse and everybody and updated on what's been going on. Congo came up 8:30 that morning. Mitch and Lombe got there at 10:30, just in time for the doctor to come in there. And I've been prepping everybody about the tough discussions we'd be having because I knew it wasn't good. So then Chongo came up and Dawn and the kids around 12:30. And my mom had been very weak that day and lethargic, but as soon as I told her, I was like, Mom, do you know that Lombe and Mitch are coming? And I was like, Dad, you tell her? And he's like, no. I was like, well, Lombe and Mitch are coming, and Chongo and Dawn are coming. And so as soon as Chongo walked in, she didn't have a chance to take off her book bag. My mom, with all her strength, reached out her arm for Chongo. When I got jealous, I was like, hey, you didn't do that for me. And then I guess she did it for Lombe. I didn't see that, but otherwise I would have given her a time then too. So then I asked if she wanted to hold my hand, and she said yes. So she held my hand too later, but and then we called Muenya, and Muenya got updated on what was going on, and he wanted to make sure that we included him for everything. So we decided, my dad, like I said, had been very strong for my mom. And when the doctors came in, we were discussing what to do now. And we knew what we wanted to do at this point because her kidneys had failed at this moment. Her heart was failing, and her liver was getting worse again. And we're talking about this with the doctor and everybody. And my dad was standing right here behind my mom. And she reached up her hand and held my dad's hand while we were talking about it. I think it's because she needed to hear that my dad would be okay if she decided that she was tired. And she decided she was tired, and Dad, could see that. So anyway, we had very good care. My mom was in a lot of pain. She unfortunately we didn't get to see her deteriorate to the point to where she lost a lot of her dignity, which we're thankful for. But as soon as all the family were there, Moinia was Skype. She waved at Moinia, waved at Dawn and the kids. We, within an hour of Chongo being there, her breathing changed. And within 2 hours and a half of everybody being there, she was gone. So we're thankful, again, that it wasn't a long, drawn-out process. But I asked my mom, I said, Mom, I love you. I said, do you know that Jesus loves you? She said, yes. I said, Mom, do you love Jesus? She said, yes. So we'll see her again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mitch, for those who don't know me, husband of Lombe. And I was so thankful, just before I begin my prepared remarks on the obituary, so thankful that Grace got to see us get married. I saw her light up and have fun in a way that I haven't seen before, and that was a blessing. And I feel that it's definitely a blessing for me to be a part of this family. I love each and every one of you. Grace Belita Mundende was born in Lanshwa, the Copperbelt province of Zambia, to Mr. Mark Kangwa Chikaka and Mrs. Martha Ngosa Chikaka on July 10th, 1955. She was 63 years old, just shy of her 64th birthday, when she went to sleep in Jesus. Grace completed her grade school at Chufwani Primary School in Kasama, high school at Porokoso Secondary School in Porokoso, and primary school training at Kasama Teachers Training College in Kasama. She did further studies at Lansing Community College in Lansing, Michigan, and Langston University in Langston, Oklahoma. Upon completing grade 12, Grace went for military training through Zambia, the Zambia National Service, before she joined Kasama Teachers Training College, where she received her primary teacher's certificate. She was an educator in various primary schools in Kasama and Lusaka until she migrated to the United States in 1991. While at Porokoso Secondary School, she first met D. Chongo Mundende, ironically not at Porokoso, but at Mumbala Secondary School in Mumbala, where they both had gone for inter-schools sports competition. Chongo says he was smitten by Grace in the love at first sight kind of way, but Grace had reservations about him. It took Grace several years of hard thinking and prayer before she said yes to him. They courted for 2 years and finally got married on May 6th, 1979. They just celebrated their 40th anniversary before Grace went to sleep on May 31st, 2019. Also, while at Porokoso Secondary School, Grace was very athletic. She was a member of the netball, volleyball, and track and field teams. She held the school record for long jump and high jump for a long time. The school administration saw leadership potential and selected her deputy head girl in charge of all-girl resident assistants. She did more than that. She assisted in the administration by carrying out its duties regarding both boys and girls. Grace learned about Christ at a very early age and was baptized in the Roman Catholic Church. She later joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but never forgot her Roman Catholic roots. She was the first person to tell anyone that she was a Christian. She regularly attended St. John the Baptist Catholic Church and First Baptist Church, both in Edmond, sometimes on the same day. She was also a member of the International Friendship Group until her health started to fail. Grace was the greatest supporter and cheerleader of the family. She was the chief advocate for education, particularly that of her husband and children. She sacrificed her own career so that her husband and children could complete their education while she stayed at home. In 1980, she joined her husband at the University of Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, while he pursued postgraduate studies, and in 1984 at Michigan State University in East Lansing, Michigan, where he was doing his doctoral studies. After that, she encouraged her children to pursue their own education and careers. All of them have been very successful at what they do. Soon after they started to work, she declared herself retired from teaching. Being an older sister, she was also there for her younger siblings.
But Grace's work went beyond the confines of her family. She was as sweet as she was gracious, pretty, smart, kind-hearted, loving, and compassionate. She was happiest when she was working for others. Her favorite hymn was "Work, for the Night is Coming." She put others' needs ahead of hers. Grace was very good with her hands. She volunteered at Mercy Hospital. For several years, she knitted baby hats and presented them to the hospital for newly born babies. She knew no stranger. She was not afraid of asking what family members considered embarrassing questions so that she could help to know someone better. Often, she would stop to give a stranger a ride. The family, with some apprehension, thought she did so because she had received that kind of love from strangers. She loved to cook and continuously watched cooking lessons on her television, particularly Chopped. She could watch Chopped from morning until night. Beginning with her family, she loved to feed people. In fact, of all the chores of the household, she found comfort and joy in being hospitable. In the days of her perfect health, you were going to eat food, whether you had just eaten before your visit or not. You were better off coming to the home hungry. A loving and kind wife, mother, aunt, sister, and grandmother, Grace will be greatly missed until the resurrection morning. She has left behind her husband, Dr. D. Chongo Mundende of Edmond, Oklahoma, 5 children, Chongo Young and her husband, Don, of Grand Rapids, Michigan, Mlenga Chonya Mundende of Overland Park, Kansas, Mwenya Chifuta Mundende of Edmond, Oklahoma, Kangwa Mundende of Edmond, Oklahoma, and Lombe Mangu Tranmer with her husband Mitch of Omaha, Nebraska, as well as 2 grandchildren, Belita Grace and Wilhelm Mwenya Thomas of Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're her brothers, Alfred Kangwa Bwalia and his spouse Kirsty of Essex, United Kingdom, Alex Chikaka of Kasama, Dominic Chikaka of Kasama, Pascal Chileshe Chikaka with spouse Fangi Kasaila of Lasaka, sister Joyce Chola Chikaka of Lasaka, aunties Eunice Bwalia Bwembia of Shata Village, Mwango Chikaka of Kungu Village, and Christina Chibwe Bwambia of Lusaka, Uncle Philip Mwelwa of Chikoti of Kasama, sisters-in-law Kumoyo Mangelwa of Lusaka, and Mubanga Mwansa of Kabwe, and many cousins, nephews, nieces, and their children. She was preceded in death by her parents, Mark and Martha Chikaka, uncles Pascal Kalemba Bwembia, Felix Bwembia, Chiwi Chikoti Bwembia, Chama Bwembia, and Amon Katongo Chikaka. Aunties Rachel Chikaka and Maria Malama Chikaka, siblings Annie Mulenga Chikaka and her husband Fanuel Manyara, Christopher Umpuru Chikaka, and Ruben Katongo Chikaka, as well as brother-in-law Paul Wasamunu Akende Muya. Grace was a loving wife, mother, daughter, sister, auntie, niece, grandmother. Mom, you are sorely missed.
I'll be reading a poem written by my father after my mother's passing. It's See You in the Morning. A few more years may roll, a few more tears will fall. We don't know about tomorrow, when God will take away our sorrow. Our hearts ache with intense pain, and we ask, what is there to gain? In the departure of a lovely saint, except to grudgingly say, dear saint, see you in the great resurrection morning. By my father, Belita Mundende.
My siblings and I were going to do this individually, but we decided to do it collectively, put our thoughts together collectively, and this is what we came up with. But before I do that, I wanted to, before I do the task that I've been asked to do, I wanted to say thank you to my siblings. I wanted to say thank you to Kangwa, to Lombe, to Mulenga, and to Mwenya. Ever since we found out about my mom's diagnosis, they've moved heaven and earth to be the hands on deck at her every care. Mulenga and Lombe, as you've heard, are both nurses. Mulenga's job made it possible that she would work 3 days. She went from working 5 days a week to working 3 days. And she went from being a salaried employee to an hourly employee. Sometimes she'd go into work and they'll be like, "Oh, we don't need you because we've got it covered." So they'd be the first people to go home, and so she's made lots of sacrifices and appreciate that. Her heart, I love my sister's heart. It's an amazing heart, and I wish I had a heart like hers. Lombe. Amazing. Same thing. Went to her work and told them the situation, and her work made it possible for her too to work her 3 days and come home to take care of mom. And Mulenga and Lombe coordinated to where when one was here, the other was working. One was working, the other one was here. And when they couldn't do that, Kangwa was working as everybody's working, and Kangwa would fill in the gaps wherever he was needed to, whatever he needed. Very grateful to my dad's work as well. He's a professor, and at the end of the semester, there are exams to be given, there are projects due, there are all kinds of things. And it's amazing to see how God worked and where he could work from home, work on the road, or work from where he could to give exams and to proctor and do all that. So just very grateful for all that. I'm grateful for my work. I only work part-time because I've chosen to stay at home with my children. And because I only work part-time, I did not qualify for FMLA. However, my work didn't care about that. They said, do what you need to do, go as much as you need to go, and we will take care of that. So just very grateful for God's hand in every one of our situations. Grateful for Mwenya. We didn't tell him much because we didn't want to worry him, and we wanted him to be able to lead without having to worry about us at home. But he would always call, and he would always check in, and he'd be like, what does mom need? And whatever we said she needed, Amazon Prime was his best friend. He'd make sure that whether it was a nightgown, whatever she needed, he made sure that it got to her. So I'm very, very grateful to my siblings, very grateful to them. And now to the task that I've been asked to do by my siblings. Okay. It is said that the greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children and grandchildren is not money or other material things accumulated in one's life, but rather a legacy of character and faith. Our mother, Grace Mundende, was a woman of many traits. As a collective, we gathered together to list off qualities that each of us have gained from our mother. We all voted that Lombe definitely has mom's rhythm and love for dance. She has an eccentric personality, style, and polish. Kangwa has mom's height, love for music, reading, and creativity. Mwenya also has her creative style or creative nature, has stoicism. My mom and would never complain about much. Or anything, actually, I should say. And he gained that ability from my mom, despite the circumstances. They never, ever complain. And Winya also has her generosity. Whatever we need, he's always there, no matter what. So I try not to tell him too much because he'll spend all his money. And so... but he's got a good heart. Malinga has mom's smile and laugh and her ability to make a good meal and the willingness to go the extra mile for any friend in need. And she also, I can be a little bit cyclical when I talk. Malinga is very straightforward, like mom. She just gets in and she's just, here's how it's supposed to be done or here's what we're doing. So, she got that from our mother. Chongo, have my mother's... she loved to crochet and knit. I preferred crocheting, so that was my something that we shared in common. And then my siblings felt like I have my mom's intuition and the drive just to have community around me. Our mother taught us to never stop learning and never give up on our passions, no matter how random they may be. Most importantly, she taught us how to love, care, and be there for one another and for others in need, and to always keep trusting in the Lord. Despite our mother's eccentricities, can't say that word, sorry. She showed us how to be hospitable, kind, generous, and how to have a good laugh and enjoy life in moments. Just yesterday, at the visitation, we brought her Bible. We wanted to display her favorite verse, which was John 3:16. However, I found that her Bible was earmarked at a particular spot, and something was underlined, which I feel described her. And it said, it was Luke 12:19, and it reads, "I will say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry." As I was reflecting on my mom, the thought that came to mind was that she sacrificed for us a lot. She put aside her own ambitions to raise us and to support my dad in his education and his work. One would think that with all his degrees, my dad was the most accomplished out of the two, but I beg to differ. Because I think that her greatest work, fait accompli, I would say, is that she raised 5 phenomenal individuals who are glad that she was their mother, will carry out her legacy into the future, and will continue to make her proud. As Psalms 145:4 so aptly puts it, one generation shall commend your works to another and shall declare your mighty acts. Mom, the best in all of us was because you gave us the very best in you. We love you.
Those of you who've met my mom, Grace, knows that how generous and authentic that she was. She was also probably the most artistic person in the family. She would, I remember she went through a writing phase, a phase of her, obviously her cooking was a way of expressing herself, and knitting, sewing, anything she could think of, she would immerse herself in that art to express herself, but she would also share that with whoever was around her and whoever would listen. And so I wrote this for her in 2015, and I'm really not good with words, and I don't think that the language of music is expressive enough to really show the beauty of her soul. And so this is the best attempt that I could make. And I hope that you will all enjoy this honor, this song in honor of my mom.
raised with him to endless life. He will hold me fast till our faith is turned to sight. When he comes and lands, he will hold me fast. He will hold me fast. For my Savior loves me so. He will hold me fast. He will hold me fast. He will hold me fast. For my Savior loves me so. He will hold me fast.
To the Mundende family, it's been a blessing to be able to serve you. And I call this an honor and a privilege to be able to take part in this beautiful service. And I know that your mom, your wife, would be proud. Totally contrary to the nature of God as creator and life giver, death equates as the ultimate enemy of all that is good. Yet even this most difficult and dreaded time provides the opportunity to honor the memory of our loved ones. We can be comforted by the memories, good times, and the promise that there is a day of joyful reunion. It's coming. As 1 Corinthians 15 says, when the last enemy, death, will be destroyed. In Matthew 11, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." We gather here today to honor the life of Grace Belita Mundende. And we also celebrate the rest that she has earned in Jesus. She had a fruitful life that touched more lives than I think any of us even realize. The crowd gathered here in this room only tells part of the story. But the synopsis of that story is that in life and in death, Grace always stole our hearts. She worked hard for God, spreading love and joy with her words, actions, and that smile. Now she can rest a little while. She has passed into death the same way she passed through this life, with Jesus. Revelation 14:13 says, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord." And Grace has found that blessing. The Bible talks about a blessed hope. This blessed hope of a new life in perfection is only possible because of Jesus. There's a well-known verse that speaks on this truth, and that verse happened to also be Grace's favorite Bible verse, John 3:16. Please feel free to recite it along with me if you so choose. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." This verse points to the past by reminding us that God gave us Jesus. It points to the present by reminding us of the surety of salvation that we have by believing in Jesus. And it points to the future by telling us of the life to come. This world is not our home. Philippians 3:20 says that our citizenship is in heaven. While on this earth, Grace was a loving wife, mother, grandmother, auntie, and friend. And although she sleeps now, we can all look forward to an eternity together. But in the meantime, you will have to deal with grief. Everybody deals with grief in different ways. It's a process, and you've just got to let it happen. Let it take its course. Don't feel guilty for how you cope. Don't feel like you always need to be the strong one. During this time of grieving, you may feel that you are having to hold on to anything that is nailed down. You may feel overwhelmed by pain to the point where you simply lose control. You may ask yourself a million questions. You may entertain 1,000 regrets. You may feel 3 feet tall. But there is light after darkness, gain after loss, strength after weakness, praise after tears, peace after rain, and joy after sorrow. God will give us hope for tomorrow and strength for today. He is our promise of peace. Hold on to love. Death leaves a heartache that no person can heal, but love leaves a memory that no one can steal. In 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 18, there's a beautiful promise. A promise of a second coming, a promise of a resurrection, a promise of eternity spent together and with our God. It says things like, lest you sorrow as others who have no hope. And things like, therefore, comfort one another with these words. And though we have tears now, there's another Bible promise to grab a hold of. Revelation 21 says that God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. A time is coming where there will be no more pain, no more death, no more suffering, and no more tears. But once again, in the meantime, we may feel a number of negative emotions. Life may become overwhelming at times. Our weaknesses in the flesh may become clear and apparent, but in those times, may we respond and believe like the writer of Psalm 46, where it is written, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. May we always remember, cherish, and live these words, especially in the hard times. As I sat in the hospital room with the family after Grace's passing, I listened as they reflected upon beautiful memories. Seeing smiles light up a dark environment was humbling for me. Catching glimmers of hope in eyes that were still wet with tears was astounding. And to the Mundende family, I hope you know how lucky and blessed you are to have known a love like that. Because many people in this world go a whole lifetime without experiencing that. A family is a circle of love, not broken by a loss, but made stronger by the memories. Hold on to the memories. Carry on Grace's legacy by sharing her story. Act on the things she taught you in her life. It's hard to forget someone who gave you so much to remember. Grace Mundende lives on in this world as long as her memories fill our hearts and our lives. Let us pray. For as much as you, O God, in your infinite love and wisdom have permitted our dear sister to fall asleep in Jesus, we do tenderly commit her to you, in the sure and certain hope of a joyful resurrection when our Lord shall return in glory. Then this body of our humiliation shall be changed and made like unto his glorious body, according to the mighty working whereby he is able to even subdue all things unto himself. We thank you for that blessed hope in the future to come. We thank you for the blessing and privilege it was for all of us to have grace in our lives in the past. We thank you for the present comfort that we find in your word and family, and in the friends gathered in this place and abroad. Lord, I ask that you continue to bless and comfort the Mundende family. May this be an opportunity for them to grow closer and to grow stronger as they prepare to see their wife, mother, grandmother, auntie, and friend once again in the life to come. We thank you for hearing our prayers and for answering them in accordance with your will. We ask these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. Now, before we sing the final song, I just have two quick announcements. For those of you that maybe want to rewatch this service and you want to share it with friends and family, just get on YouTube and search Edmond Adventist. You can pull up our page, and within a few days, the entire service will be up on our page. And second, I just ask that for everybody here, please stay in your seats until you are dismissed. Somebody will dismiss you.
There is a land of pure delight, where bliss eternal reigns. Infinitely excludes the night, and pleasures banish pain. We're traveling to Emmanuel's land, we soon shall hear the trumpet sound, and soon we shall with Jesus reign, and never, never part again. What